own.
Awesome, awesome. So Tim, if you're watching, please send in the Beyond the Wall cast. Since Tim and I are big fans of this podcast, he's going to come upstairs and join us as well.
And I'm going to give Tim my spot because he has more rational things to say about this than I do because I got nightmares from watching the television show.
Tim, are you hearing this? You're more rational than someone.
When it comes to Games of Thrones.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to work on starting to print out the cards against astronomy. Carrie, if you're out there, if you can email me, starstrider at Gmail, the cards against Mars. I'm going to work on starting to put that together for the final hour of this show. So get us your cards.
We are, and just talking to Michael in the private chat, we want to push to get 20,000 by the end of this. We have an hour and a half left.
We can do this.
Totally do this.
We have to do this.
We have to do this for science.
For science.
Hang on, I need to get something first.
It's always fun to see you guys at when you change set. This is where you need the curtain to drop so you can do the set change to scene number. Oh, I'm sorry. This is scene number 30.5. Oh, nice hat.
So this is actually in tribute to PG.
PG's not wearing a fedora.
PG is usually. We have so many pictures of Nicole or I or Vivid Muse having stolen PG's fedoras.
Go get it! Go get it, sir!
Kyle, if you're watching, can you bring up more fedoras?
All right. So why don't we go through? So we have some of the cast here. Why don't you come through and introduce yourselves? We have Christiana Ellis.
Hello, I'm Christiana Ellis.
Sorry.
That's
and we have, here we go. Newt, you got the hat. Nutty. Say hello. Hang on, we can't hear you. Go up to the little microphone.
Yeah, I got it. I always forget about that. Hello, I'm Nutty. I didn't realize it was fedora time, so I had to quick grab my fedora.
Awesome. Awesome. And PG Holyfield.
No, I feel left out.
I tell you.
Oh.
I guess it's my own fault, though, for not having a fedora. I mean, you got to be prepared for these things.
So here's PG Holyfield, who is the lead host of Beyond the Wall.
Yeah, of course, the problem with wearing the fedora is that it's not really conducive to wearing a headset, but hey. For Nicole, we'll do
Thank you.
PG,
and
earbuds.
And there is my favorite guy, Mr. Timothy Legower.
Timothy Legower, who's been up with us the whole time, helping out in the background.
Wow.
Been trying. I got like 20 minutes of sleep, so.
Okay.
Sweet.
Still less than I did. I think I got 40. So, yeah, so you guys are part of the cast of Beyond the Wall. We've got 2 more on their way, hopefully, Viv and Chooch. Why don't you give a brief...
Actually, they will not make it. They are under the weather at the moment. But,
they're not going to make it?
Yeah.
No, unfortunately not.
Chooch is dealing with virus of some sort.
Oh, okay. So some kind of blood disease. Some
virus.
So why don't you tell us quickly what your podcast is all about?
Awesome. Beyond the Wall is a Game of Thrones podcast. We are housed at specficmedia.com. We do a weekly podcast during the HBO season of Game of Thrones. And then we do some extra stuff before and after the season, and so you can find all of our stuff over at specficmedia.com, and on iTunes there's actually 2 Beyond the Wall podcasts, but we're the ones that have a lot of episodes because they pod faded after a few episodes. So.
Yeah.
And we talk on the podcast primarily about the HBO show, and we are spoiler free in terms of only talking about stuff that has happened so far on the show. But most of us have read the books.
Yeah,
we have a resident newbie.
Yeah,
we do talk about the books, but yes, like Christiana said, we don't go beyond where we are in the show. So there usually is discussion about how they treated the information differently in the books or what's changed, but we don't go beyond that. So.
Yes. So I think we're going to stick to the same. Should we stick to the same rules for this one?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Okay.
Definitely
I
will.
love the flying fedora. Just randomly a fedora comes flying in.
So, we have you guys on here. So we're doing this CosmoQuest fundraiser. So cosmoquest.org/donate. You can see the link down there. We are raising money for science and citizen science and and all the education and outreach we do. And being sci-fi fantasy geeks as well, we like to talk about things like Game of Thrones and how you can get the weird seasons. And so for those who aren't familiar, I think Mike in here, so Mike, we have Michael who's been helping us out as well, isn't as familiar with Game of Thrones. And so
Complete noob.
You're
Awesome.
a complete noob. We want to know what this has to do with astronomy. Right? Why are we here talking about Game of Thrones and specifically the astronomy in it?
You see, I've given up long ago on actually questioning why you talk about things, Nicole. I just kind of go with it.
You're a smart man.
Yeah,
You'll
yeah.
love it well.
Makes life much easier.
Well,
Okay,
actually, go ahead, Christiana. Why don't you throw it out?
I was going to ask who should explain,
No,
but
Go ahead.
so the basic reason that I think the world of Westeros is the setting, and well, it's not the world. Westeros is one of the continents, but the world of Game of Thrones is interesting to talk about in this context because the seasons work very differently from those on Earth. In particular, they seem to have only summer and winter as defined seasons, but not only are they very long compared to Earth's seasons, meaning they can go for many years, but they are also apparently arbitrarily long. You will usually have a long winter follow a long summer, but not always, and they're not always the same length.
Yeah, it doesn't seem predictable. The Meisters, who were kind of like the observers and may have been similar to the ancient astronomers watching the patterns in the seasons, tell us when is summer ending, when is winter coming. So they hint that there's something that tells them that the seasons are changing, but it's not predictable and it's not regular. And of course, here on Earth, we have the sun. The Earth is tilted with on its axis with respect to its. This is my demo. With respect to the plane of the sun. And so every year we go through 4 seasons of equal length. It goes around and round in a nearly circular orbit. We get winter, summer, fall, and spring when you expect to get them. And yeah, ancient astronomers used the patterns in the sky in part to figure that out. So we're trying to figure out how does the planet that Westeros is on have to be to get these seasons?
And there are a couple more things to throw into the mix just to get it out and at the top, so it can throw some wrenches into actual, reasons that might work. They also have things like the long night, where in addition to some of these long winters, some are so bad that they have darkness for years and years. And then, of course, you have just the idea of years. They have, sort of a normal, or what we would think of as a solar, going around the sun would be a year. At least that's what we assume. I don't know if it's ever been described
That is how they
differently.
track it. The Maesters in Old Town use what they call mirrorish glass, which is basically telescopes, and they can tell where the sun is, and that's how they can tell how long a year has been. So there is a hint at solar, orbiting the sun,
Right.
but
And
the
that's how they
seasons
measure
don't make
age
sense.
of the
Yes.
people, which is similar to us, right? But the seasons have no bearing on this, and so it's completely
Right.
weird and how that might work. So we are not the first astronomers to actually look into this problem. I was on a road trip down to Florida with some of my friends from UVA, and we talked about this quite at length. But
UVA.
also, on April 1st of this year, on the archive server, so this is where all the physics and astronomy papers are posted before they get published in the journals. On April 1st, there was a paper titled "Winter is Coming," and so if you go to archive.arx www.westiv.org and search Westeros in the search bar. You will get this paper, Winter is Coming, where several astronomers actually did investigate this problem. So some things we think about, okay, if it's not in a completely circular orbit, maybe it's in a really elliptical, or it's in a really eccentric orbit, right? And so maybe the planet that holds west, I don't know, do we have a name for it? We don't have a name for it.
The planet, no.
So far as we know, it's just known as the known world,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't even know all of the entire planet. They have mention of other planets in the solar system, so we know it is a planet,
Mm-hmm.
but we only have part of this planet, and we only go so far as just below the equator, so we're not all the way down to the the South Pole. We've got an Arctic line, an equator, and really that's about it.
Yes.
And I was just going to say, I think there's 4 known continents among and many islands, but no one has ever circumnavigated the planet that we are aware of.
Pre-circumnavigations. This is they're too busy worrying about their local politics to worry about the shape of their planet and its orbit. So we're going to worry about it for them. Although before I get into that, I want to give an update on the donate page. We are almost at 18,000. We are at 17,959. I know you guys can bust it forward a little bit to get to 18,000 in the next few minutes. So let's do that.
No pressure.
No pressure, guys. While we discuss. Now, of course, we've seen many non-Earth planets around other stars, right? And so it could be on a really eccentric orbit, right? So that'll pull it really far out.
And for the way that I like to describe for people that aren't so familiar with astronomy, the eccentric orbit is basically, think of it as football shaped. So it doesn't quite follow what Earth does. There are 7 planetary objects, they call them wanderers, not planets, in the sky.
Came from, so yeah.
Yep. And they, of course, in Westeros, attribute it to their 7 gods.
Hang on, I'm just reading quickly. So, this doesn't quite work all that well because you get. In fact, that's a lot of people think that the Earth is further away from the sun in winter, but that, of course, doesn't work out because the different hemispheres have winter and summer at the same time. You get. I need you to check what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
I've been. So it could be that it's in this really eccentric orbit, but even then, I think it would be regular.
That's one of the biggest problems that I've run into, because I'm looking at it and I'm trying to figure, is it because it's at an extreme tilt that the seasons last longer? Is it because it's on the eccentric orbit? You know, all of these different things. Even if you are to say that there are longer climate cycles, you'd think that they'd be more regular. You wouldn't have a short summer or a short winter or a long summer or a long winter. One theory that I've come up with my husband is the idea of meteorological impacts creating dust clouds, or volcanic eruptions creating dust clouds, to make it seem like there's more of a winter, that perhaps their summer has small seasons within it, but then if there's some sort of dust going up in the air, it then creates kind of like winter-like conditions, and that maybe it's not exactly regular, but the Maesters can kind of predict when this is coming. One thought that we had to ask was, what would the impact of a comet coming too close to a planet's atmosphere do to a planet's climate? Because we just saw in the books and in the show that the red comet went past, and then all the Maesters say, well, winter's coming.
Don't take the only thing I was going to talk about. No, I'm just
kidding. Sorry, you were futzing with your hat.
I was just changing hats.
No, I don't know, but that's only in this particular instance, right? They've seen comets before, but never a red comet.
Right.
But I don't think that I just can't see a comet being so small having enough of an impact on the atmosphere to do something that. I think that's a coincidence.
What if there were impacts happening somewhere like outside of our, like if
the known world?
If our known world is only a subset of the surface, and there are major impacts happening like on the other side,
right?
is that something that could potentially have some of the effect? One thing that is sometimes observed is they notice that there are severe storms and rough seas in the narrow period that they call autumn, which is when winter is starting. They don't really call it a whole season. It's not like a year long, but there's like a period seems like months maybe that they say the storms get especially rough.
Now I'm digging a little bit further than where the show is, but this won't be a spoiler. I do vaguely remember them saying the days are getting shorter though from Old Town.
Yes.
That wouldn't be affected by the comet unless. I think you'd need something bigger. You'd need a binary planet. You'd need a binary star. Something that would kick it off. More regularly eccentric way.
Yeah, I thought of the binary star system, but then you'd think they'd mention something about having two suns.
Yeah.
Well, so one thing that I looked for is, do they ever mention having a moon?
That's another point I have. They do talk about a moon, and the Dothraki have a legend that dragons came because there used to be two moons, and one came too close to the sky, and it came down and it hatched, and that's where dragons came from. And so the idea that I had was, well, perhaps there used to be two moons, and one, fell out of orbit, came too close, something like that might have happened, and because they're missing one of their moons, their orbit and their tilt are all messed up.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
That could be a continuing source of debris as well, if there are debris clouds that are left behind from that dragon episode.
Here's my theory, and of course we must say the George R.R. Martin's take on this, and he said this in interviews, is that hey, it's fantasy, it's magic. So he hasn't come up with his own, but we're here to talk about the science of it.
There's one section of the paper, so they go through pollutants, they go through axial tilt, they go through eccentricity, they actually graph the length of the seasons, and then there's a section 1.4 magic. Yep, this would work.
Sweet. I like that. But my idea is a variable star.
That's actually what I was going to...
The day.
What's that?
That wouldn't affect the length of the day.
And do we know for sure that the Maesters in Old Time... I think that's later on, that the Maesters in Old Town...
As a total noob, I think I know the answer.
Oh.
Ooh, cool.
Are any of these Meisters named Velikovsky?
None of the ones we've met in the story so far.
There you go.
Okay, he lives on the other side of the world.
Explain that one before I die laughing.
Velikovsky, okay, would it be fair to call him a nut or a crank? We were not on manners this long into the broadcast. Velikovsky had a proposal that Venus was actually born out of Jupiter. Jupiter spun too fast, or it had a wart or something, and Venus kind of spit out from this great cosmic planetary size zit, went screaming around the inner solar system back and forth, stopped the Earth rotating, causing most of the biblical things that we've seen in the classic Hebrew and Christian Bible, the Earth stopping, rolling backwards, sun stop, etc., until finally it happened to end up in an almost perfectly circular orbit between Earth and Mercury. It's a Christmas miracle.
When planets go through puberty.
Yes, it's sad.
I want to jump in and say that the donations are up to $17,984.
Woo!
$16.
Can we add
Keep
bitcoins
those
to that?
gold dragons coming in.
So want to make 20,000. We'd like to make 200,000, but can we make 20,000?
Can we add Can we add the bitcoins total to that number?
Is that included or is that separate?
No, the bitcoins are separate. You're right. So
that's 320-ish?
A bitcoin.
So do bitcoins count as maybe iron Bravosi coins?
Yes.
Oh, wouldn't it be nice if we knew the Valerian or Bravosi word for science? Because then we could have all men must study. It wouldn't have to be all men in this context. It's a patriarchal society, but it's an old. But Valar Morghulis means all men must die, and then Valar Dohaeris is all men must serve. But we should have one that should all must
All
do
men
science.
must science.
All men must science.
I wonder if that's like
silly
etched
concept.
into the walls of Old Town. That's where the Maesters study, by the way.
Yes.
The Citadel, yes.
Yes, the Citadel.
And so I had wondered about the idea of like variable star as well, and I wonder, it's hard to know, especially because of the magic fudge factor, that there might be some details that are inconsistent with any particular theory because he's kind of making stuff up. But what I think what we have to imagine, though, is science at the level that it is for the people there. You can't necessarily trust every single observation equally because, for example, they have not found a pattern, but they also have no computers. And so it could be that it is some complex pattern that is not detectable, and especially if it varies on the order of generations, they would have a very difficult time capturing that and detecting what that pattern might be. So it might seem arbitrary to them, but it might actually be some sort of just second or third order wobble.
Yeah.
And one thing that I don't think is a spoiler to say is that we've already seen a little bit of the Maesters in Old Town and the Citadel discouraging certain areas of study. For instance, Maesters that have been kicked out for studying magic, even though there is some magic that's acceptable, with the Valerian chain and so forth. And you'll later find out, that I doubt this will be in the show, about being able to light a candle that's unlightable and all this other stuff. So it makes me wonder also if perhaps certain areas of study that would be too close to in this magic world, too close to figuring out the secrets to the climate and why seasons last so long, if maybe that was being discouraged. And so we've got a bit of science being quashed here.
Purposely unknown, and they're like you were saying, they're not terribly good about their record keeping. This is something you talked about in a previous episode. We were goofing on this. Okay, so spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the TV show, this is a spoiler
And you plan
alert.
to.
And you plan to. Go watch it, it's awesome.
Put your fingers in your ears for a little bit.
In case you get nightmares.
Dragonglass kills White Walkers. This is kind of important, but everyone's forgotten.
Yeah.
Like, these are like the biggest scourge to humanity, and this is the one thing that kills them, and you made a point about every book.
It should start every book, yes.
Pages, yeah.
Yeah, every
Loved
book
it.
in Westeros should have that written in the front pages.
In
Dragonglass
fairness to them, it has been several thousands of years since
Yeah.
this was last relevant to them.
But, you know, Sam found all the old books. None of them say this.
Yeah, I mean, in the show, even Sam's figured out the Black Gate all on his own, and even in the books, he didn't know that much. But Wizard Sam didn't know about Dragonglass ahead of time. So you're right; it's just one of those things that kind of got forgotten. And I'm sure it was written down somewhere, and someone's transcribing a book, and then he's like, "Dragonglass kills the others." Yeah, this is just more poetic license. I'm gonna leave that part out. It's a little too flowery.
Well, yeah, that could be part of it. It could be that because many people, it's been so long, they have actually legitimately stopped believing that it was ever true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is that they in the stories, it's just fairy tales to the kids,
Yep.
or horror stories, I guess is more.
Well,
accurate.
yeah, Brand
Well,
enjoyed
so
those stories.
Here's a question. Should maybe instead of dismissing the magical elements, we should actually be considering those as, its existence in this world needs to be evidence of something. Is it possible that there would be some like higher dimensional phenomena going on here? I don't know very much about this.
Right, like a gravitational field, and it's getting stronger because you have winter coming and you have a comet, so you have an astronomical event, something happening in the sky, happening at the same time winter is coming, happening at the same time the dragons are waking. Yeah, there's some fluctuation in the magical field.
Okay, you said I heard magnetic field.
No,
magical field.
Fields did this.
Close enough for some people.
Well, but I was wondering though. I mean, certainly, I think it might be true that conventional Newtonian orbital physics is not sufficient to explain what we see, but is it possible that there is either like a quantum or some higher spatial dimensional influence that could have some effect, or is that just something we would have no way to really know at all?
Oh, I just like using the word quantum for magic.
I think it's much so reading the books, this was something that deeply bothered me.
Okay.
And so I have to admit the place I always went was, well, I kept missing the moon apparently, but I was listening to the Audible books. If the moon is small enough, it can still have an unstable wobble, and there could be resonances set up with the moon such that the periodicity of the wobble depends on how it lines up with the moon's orbit.
But resonances are ultimately predictable and regular. It's to some extent.
It depends on how long the ultimate beat frequency is. Think of how long
compared
it took them
to the generations. Okay.
Right.
Well, and it may be that if the wobble is complex enough that they just haven't detected the pattern.
Yeah.
So it could be regular in just a way that they have not been able to detect.
Speaking of external influences, there is some evidence for, I'm trying not to be spoilery, but in Dance with Dragons, we're going to learn about some other factors that aren't quite factors yet, but they are. I think they are. I believe what we learn in Dance with Dragons tells us that there are other factors and a bit of internal disturbance.
Okay.
So
keep reading.
Are you talking about what happened in Valyria?
Nope. No,
Okay.
I'm talking about what happens beyond the wall.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure where you.
But you brought
Okay.
up
Yeah, I don't know
another thing
if we can't discuss it
Valyria.
without spoilers.
It sounds volcanic to me. Happened in Valyria.
Yes,
So
that too.
So it is certainly true that the most advanced that any society in this known world has ever been was ancient Valyria, which is now gone because they were the entire landmass was mostly obliterated to the point where it used to be like part of a continent, and now it is like a new sea and a chain of islands that nobody sails that way because it's cursed and bad things happen to you. It could be radioactive in some way, for example. Because people do talk about it being like cursed, like even just sailing through there, even if you make it out okay, you're still in trouble. And so it's some sort of a cataclysmic event happened there. And,
so it's a lot like Jersey.
Yeah, it really is. It's just like going through the Hudson.
Okay. I'm starting to get this program. I can almost crack this.
What would high levels of methane in the atmosphere do?
We're not going to solve this in the next 8 minutes. So
have you?
I disagree.
I know your episodes are
woman.
typically longer than the TV show.
Yes.
And so now that we've seen the season premiere, after you film the episode related to the season premiere, how about having the group of us on to do this more in depth for a little bit longer? Because we want to hit $20,000. So
we're at
Absolutely.
18,050 on the regular money scale, and then you add in the
So we can make a promise here. If we reach $20,000, we will do a special episode for as long as you people want it, or until we pass out.
Oh my God, make my day, people! I love their show. I want to be on it.
Well, we'll just make sure to pass out and shift so we can keep going.
Pass out and shift.
Yes.
That's what we've been doing all day.
Yeah.
And we'll have to
Pass out and shift.
come up with a good drinking game, so we can do shots at periodic moments. One thing I will be doing, this will not be a immediate thing, just because I can't do too much. But what I will be doing, anybody that buys a T-shirt from or any other piece of merchandise from our website, which is specficmedia.com, but the actual website for the store is specficmedia.spreadshirt.com. Anything that is purchased from there from now until the end of the year Any of the profit from that will go to CosmoQuest.
Oh my
So,
god.
Ooh.
we may only be talking about like 5 T-shirts.
I don't care.
But people, have you
But-
seen
So
the
generous,
artwork for
thank
that
you.
T-shirt? It's amazing artwork, and I'm on it.
Yes. So again, go to Spreadshirt. Excuse me. Was it spreadshirt.specficmedia.com? No, it is specficmedia.spreadshirt.com. And there's a bunch of products there, and if you'll mainly see that our art is for the show is on the T-shirts. If there's any product on there that isn't represented, and you want to have a coffee mug or something, just let us know, and I'll put that up there, and you can buy it, and we'll do that for the rest of the year.
It's a dragon.
Yes.
Dragon doll.
Ugh.
Thank
So
you.
I've got another thing I can offer too. Is that right now I am working. It's going slow, but I'm getting there on Space Casey Season 2, which is my my science fiction comedy audio drama. And right now I actually have a number of cameo roles available, and so maybe a cameo role with at least one speaking line, possibly more, would be available to anyone who donates at least $50 until we get to 20,000.
That would be awesome. So
Ooh.
you get, for $50, you get a role in Christiana's story, and
Yes.
for the proceeds from Specfic Media's Spreadshirt site, you go to CosmoQuest as well. So you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Now I got to throw in here too. Quick question. Can you track who's donated from the beginning of this hour
Yes.
till
We will
into
have
the next half
timestamps
hour?
for every single donation.
Excellent. I am going to ask for a random 5 donators, and just random, no matter how much you've donated. I will make pop art for you'd have to send me a picture of yourself, but I will make a pop art icon for random 5 people that donate
Sweet.
for this hour.
That's
So
awesome.
get those donations in. That's original art.
That's
So,
awesome.
so if the group of you could email all of this to us,
Yes.
we've been awake for 33 hours because we got up 2 hours before the recording started.
That's a lot of hours.
Yes.
We're astronomers. We're hardy. Now,
All
so
the
I have to
hours.
admit, what we're going to do in our last section was inspired
Ooh.
by you guys.
Oh, yeah, there's PG's pop art.
That's cool.
PG talk
Oh.
so they can see
So
you.
that's the type of thing that you'll see if you, or that you'll get if you are one of those.
That's very cool.
That is wonderful.
I love it. I
Pull
love
that
it.
up there. I'm not getting on the. Oh, I guess
We are
people can see.
fortunate to have such talented friends willing to help us out. So thank you so much.
So,
You're very welcome.
When we were at Balticon, I'm stealing your mic.
Go for it.
When we were at Balticon, you guys handed out Words Against Humanity cards that were customized to Game of Thrones, and then did nothing with them. I was confused, delighted, yet confused. So I decided to steal ruthlessly your idea and then actually do something with the cards. So we've been soliciting cards against astronomy submissions the entire time, and realized that most of the people think this is a great idea and then don't submit cards. They donate money, which we actually want more than we want the cards. But we are going to be playing in our final hour cards against astronomy.
We have Sandy to come in really quick.
Yeah, and so we have Sandy coming in for 15 minutes while we do the transition, and while I cut out the cards I just finished printing. and Sandy is an asteroid researcher, and you guys are welcome to hang out if you want. Sandy is an asteroid researcher who works down at Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, and she's one of those folks that's helping to protect the planet Earth, one radar measurement at a time, essentially. And she participated in this year's Fame Lab regional finals down in Houston, Texas. I got to be one of the judges for this. It's co-sponsored by the U.S. Geological Society, or National Geographic, rather. Sorry, National Geographic, not USGS, National Geographic. And they're looking to try and identify the next generation of great science talent, and she was the one who went on to the next round, and we've asked her to do the presentation that she did there and talk a little bit about FameLab.
Awesome. So Sandy, we have sent you the invite on Google Plus, so you should see it there, and I've also sent you the link on Google Hangouts. So come on in when you're ready. I'll switch mics with you. There's the stand for that one. We have 2 mics going. So this is our last 2 segments now. We'll have a segment from Sandy down at Arecibo. If you saw the segment with Ryan Lynch, he had a picture of his group at Arecibo, and I wanted to be like, squee, we get that in the background whenever we talk to Sandy. So I'm really excited about that.
Before we talk to Sandy,
yeah,
just need to note that we're entering hour 32.
Hour 32.
This is
the very
32.
last hour. Oh my God! Look at him! Look at this one! Look at this one!
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
thank
Nicole,
you.
I need to go, but I did want to say one of my great pleasures of Balticon was I got to sit at the CosmoQuest and Astronomy Cast table, and because Pamela was very nice to allow me to have a little corner to sell my books, and
Nice.
So I got to sound like I knew a little bit about science for a few hours, so that was
Awesome.
fun.
Awesome.
Yes, I know all about citizen science. Let me tell you about CosmoQuest. So that was
Everybody that gets too close gets roped in. So.
that was
How
fun.
it
But you
goes.
guys have a great last hour.
It's like
Wonderful
there's
work.
some sort of a mysterious force that as masses get closer, there's this attraction.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Magic.
What could we call it? Magic.
Magic.
Oh, right. Magic.
So Christiana
Magnets.
she's one of the authors who's part of our free Wi-Fi on Mars series.
Yes.
I read her story last week. We're working on getting all of these out in audio on 365 Days of Astronomy. PG has been a long-term friend of the show's, and the podcasting community is awesome, and we're just getting to know Nutty, and we're going to be finding ways to suck Nutty into every
Go right ahead, suck
That
me
is
in,
an,
and
that is a audio GIF. Audio loop.
I bring with me a plague
Excuse me.
doctor, so it's always fun.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, guys, well, have a wonderful last hour. I gotta go.
I'm
All
gonna
right,
have to
thank
step out
you.
too. My
Thank
father is waiting, but I'll be back to watch the Cards Against Astronomy. Keep
Yes,
those
looking forward to
donations
that.
coming.
Thank you so much, you
Bye,
guys.
guys.
And yes, let's get to 20,000 so Pamela and I can come on their show, and I can continue to fangirl out at them because it's fun. And yeah, Tim and I, we watch your show every week because you have such an in-depth knowledge of the books and the show, and point out so much that we miss while watching and reading. And so thank you so much for helping us enjoy Game of Thrones even more.
And I just watch it periodically because this way I know what people are talking about, and I don't have to watch things like Constant Nightmares. You guys,
Hopefully, someone's rewarded by my nerdgasms.
Here's just a gratuitous corgi shot.
yay,
Corgi!
Corgi!
Yay, Luna!
Oh man, so good.
So
Goodbye, everyone.
we love this.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all you've done for us.
Thank you
Oh,
guys.
it's great.
And keep
Bye.
tweeting, keep retweeting, keep sharing, keep resharing.
Yes.
Facebook has us confused with this event. We do have an event page posted.
Awesome. So Tim, if you're watching, please send in the Beyond the Wall cast. And since Tim and I are big fans of this podcast, he's going to come upstairs and join us as well.
And I'm going to give Tim my spot because he has more rational things to say about this than I do because I got nightmares from watching the television show.
Tim, are you hearing this? You're more rational than someone.
When it comes to Games of Thrones.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to work on starting to print out the Cards Against Astronomy. Carrie, if you're out there, if you can email me, starstrider at Gmail, the Cards Against Mars. I'm going to work on starting to put that together for the final hour of this show. So get us your cards.
We are, and
You know,
have the
you got to be
fedora
prepared for
it.
these things.
So here's PG
problem, of
Holyfield,
course-
who is the lead host of Beyond the Wall.
Yeah, of course, the problem with wearing the fedora is that it's not really conducive to wearing a headset, but hey. For Nicole,
Mwah,
do
thank
it.
you.
PG,
And
earbuds.
and there is my favorite guy, Mr. Timothy Legower.
Timothy Legower, who's been up with us the whole time, helping out in the background.
Wow.
Been trying. I got like 20 minutes of sleep, so.
Okay.
Sweet.
Still less than I did. I think I got 40. So, yeah, so you guys are part of the cast of Beyond the Wall. We've got 2 more on their way, hopefully, Viv and Chooch. Why don't
No,
you
we
give a brief...
don't.
Actually, they will not make it. They are under the weather at the moment. But
Watching, can you bring up more fedoras?
All right. So why don't we go through? So we have some of the cast here. Why don't you come through and introduce yourselves? We have Christiana Ellis.
Hello, I'm Christiana Ellis.
Sorry.
That's
and we have, oh, here we go. Newt, you got the hat. Nutty. Say hello. Hang on, we can't hear you. Go up to the little microphone.
Yeah, I got it. I always
Got
forget
it.
about that. Hello, I'm Nutty. I didn't realize it was fedora time, so I had to quick grab my fedora.
Awesome. Awesome. And
Jesus.
PG Holyfield. PG.
No, I feel left out.
I tell you,
Oh.
I guess it's my own fault, though, for not having a fedora. I mean,
Yeah, just talking to Michael in the private chat. We want to push to get 20,000 by the end of this. We have an hour and
We
a
can do
half
this.
left.
We can do this.
Totally do this.
We have to do this.
We have to
20.
do this for science.
For science!
Hang on, I need to get something first. Where'd it go?
It's always fun to see you guys at when you change set. This is where you need the curtain to drop so you can do the set change to scene number. Oh, I'm sorry. This is scene number 30.5. Oh, nice hat.
So this is actually in tribute to PG. I'm not.
PG's not wearing a fedora!
PG is usually. We have
Hey,
so many
sorry,
pictures
hold on,
of
I can't-
Nicole or I or
Thank
Vivid
you.
Muse having
Hold on,
stolen
I've
PG's
gotta
fedoras.
Go
Gotta
get
get
it!
one,
Go get it, sir!
Kyle, if you're.
Oh, they're not gonna make it?
Yeah.
no, unfortunately not.
Okay.
Chooch is dealing with virus of some sort.
Oh, okay. So some kind of blood disease. Some he needs to be
Virus.
leached. So why
There
don't you
we go.
tell us quickly what your podcast is all about?
Awesome. Beyond the Wall is a Game of Thrones podcast. We are housed at spacflicmedia.com. We do a weekly podcast during the HBO season of Game of Thrones. And then we do some extra stuff before and after the season. And so you can find all of our stuff over at spacflicmedia.com. And